More with CNN political commentator Anna Navarro and CNN contributor and New York Times op-ed columnist Frank Bruni.
Anna's Florida royalty. I will note that Anna's Florida.
I call her Queen Navarro.
Yeah,
okay. Okay, so because of that, we defer to royalty. Anna, how big of a problem is this?
You know, I was thinking about it last night, and I thought to myself, okay, so we elected Rick Scott governor, and he was involved. He was the CEO of a company that was involved in Medicare fraud that resulted in $1.7 billion in fraud. We elected Marco Rubio, senator, and his best friend, his lifelong best friend at that moment, was involved in an investigation, and Marco was accused of a sweetheart mortgage deal that he'd gotten from a donor. So I think in Florida we've got a high tolerance for this kind of stuff, and the Hamilton tickets kind of pale in comparison. I do think Andrew Gillum's explanations are a little convoluted, even though if you've ever been to Hamilton, if you've ever been to a impossible to get into Broadway play, look, I got to tell you, I was at Springsteen 2 weeks ago. A friend of mine got me access to the tickets, and then I paid for the tickets. I went to Hamilton. A friend of mine got me access to the tickets, and then I paid for the tickets, and I went to Hamilton. I don't know what Andrew Gillum's story is. This seems like a fairly small thing, and he needs to get a story straight, and he needs to get it out right quick.
The FBI is on line B for you, Anna, right now on those tickets. Frank, it is interesting, and this is something that Allison has brought up repeatedly.
Yeah, I wish I knew that FBI agent. He seems to have good connections.
Mike Miller.
Exactly. Can he get me to see the dead? Frank,
yeah.
in a way, is one of the byproducts of the Trump era that maybe, and we don't really know yet, that voters will become inoculated to certain types of scandals. Obviously, Roy Moore was one thing. But
Scott Pruitt's another.
Scott Pruitt's another.
And that lasted for a long time.
Yeah, I think Trump has worsened the situation, but I think, in all fairness, this predates Donald Trump. And, Anna said correctly that Floridians have a high tolerance for this sort of thing. I don't think it's confined to Florida. I think most American voters assume that politicians are not totally clean. I mean, they assume that they hang out with some people whom they take favors from and that sort of thing. And in the context of that, honestly, I don't think a single Hamilton ticket is going to ruin Andrew Gillum's campaign. I also think this new information does not resolve and solve everything. I mean, he's correct. That text is sort of ambiguous. You can say that text does not prove that the ticket was from the FBI agent or from the guy trying to buy influence, the reference to the crew gives Andrew Gillum enough wiggle room to kind of say what he's saying. I think a lot of this is just noise to voters because, as I said, I don't think they expect politicians, sadly, to be completely above board and completely clean, and a Hamilton ticket is not.
But I also just want to draw a line in the sand here. Is this the moment where we decide if everything that we've heard about the claims of corruption on Donald Trump's side, the violations of the emoluments clause, the taking Saudi money, the Trump family tax scheme that the New York Times laid out in exhaustive detail, has that upped our tolerance, Anna, so that when we hear about one Hamilton ticket, it is such small potatoes, or are only Democrats held to a standard of no corruption anymore?
Frankly, only Democrats are stupid enough to apologize for it and try to make excuses and justify it and explain it, instead of just, shrugging their shoulders and saying, so what? And the Trump thing is particularly relevant in this case, I think, in this race, because Ron DeSantis owes his primary win. He owes his, being the nominee, the Republican nominee, strictly to Donald Trump. He embraced Donald Trump. He modeled himself after Donald Trump. He was just asked in that debate by Jake Tapper on Sunday if Donald Trump was a good role model for his children, and somehow he started answering about Israel. So I do think that Andrew Gillum, who's got a debate tonight, should throw Donald Trump in Ron DeSantis' face and say, look, dude, you're coming after me for a Hamilton ticket when you are the mini-me of a president whose campaign is under investigation, who has led to 5 indictments or guilty pleas, who is, violating the emoluments clause constantly, and you guys in Congress were obstructing all of these investigations. So, in the same way that that Ron DeSantis answered with Israel when he got asked about Donald Trump and, moral fitness, I think Andrew Gillum should answer with Trump when he gets asked about Hamilton. Either that or break into song.
And we should note the debate
Both would
is
work.
tonight. They have a lot of fodder for that debate tonight. Frank, I want to change subjects if I can. I'm an avid reader.
And they were very good debating, both of them, I thought.
Yeah.
Very